Hello and welcome to another Bitsbox unboxing video. Today we're going to be looking at the new Valiant Super-Heavy Cruiser from Halo Fleet Battles by Spartan Games. Now I haven't seen anything with regards to stats, and as far as we're aware, very few people have received their orders for this right now, so quite luckily my local store managed to get my order in. So crack her open, we'll have a look. Right, so let's see, nothing more in that box. Nope, so we'll put it off to one side. And off the bat, we've got the usual suspects, sprues of bases, parts, and more Paris frigates, another 12. That brings me up to at least 1 million. So, well, we'll have a look at the models themselves. Wrapped in bubble wrap as usual. They're fairly large. Just pop them down there. There's other parts in this small packet here. If we just crack them, see they're in there. So let's see. We've got the what looks like mounts for your bases there and the engines there. So drop them in unceremoniously, and we'll take a close-up look at the Valiant itself. So hopefully the camera is focusing nicely. Interesting choice they've made recently is in previous renders there's a lot more side detail on these panels, just little paneling lines and that sort of thing, but that seems to have been removed in favor of a more smooth-sided look, which is going to be your taste as to whether that's preferable or not. The model seems quite smooth on the sides. There's slight evidence of graining, but honestly it's nowhere near what we saw in the Punic and the CAS, and given that these are so smooth you could probably sand that down lightly, but I'd argue a good primer will probably cover that right up. And your engine block goes in there. As ever, these models are, oh actually, I got it the wrong way around. I had it the wrong way around. So I was about to say these models are the simplest ever, or the simplest models to assemble that I've seen in the market, and then I almost put the engine on upside down. But yeah, there we go. Valiant Super Heavy Cruiser. It's a bit bigger than a Marathon, both in terms of the overall length and the width. And going face on there, thankfully not too similar actually, looking at the silhouettes. Granted, most UNSC ships look kind of the same, but I think with the proper paint job, and if you did like squadron markings and lines and such, it's not too conceivable that your opponent's going to get them mixed up, which is what a lot of people are worrying about. It'd just be a Marathon scaled up. Epoch still dwarfs it in many ways. So it's about half the overall length or so. So it's not the biggest model. It's definitely smaller than the Orion. Sadly, I still haven't managed to paint an Orion, so I haven't got one of those to compare it to, but the Marathon and the Epoch, pretty much every UNSC player's got those, so that's a good idea of how it scales. So I'll just pop that little guy there for now. I say little guy. Pop the sprue of bases. You only get 4 bases in this, though for 3 ships, so there's a spare one in there. That is something. The packet of usual suspects. So in this, I'll be a bit tidier, just throwing everything around in my excitement. I've got yet more UNSC tokens, of course. We've got the formation base cards, and we've got assembly instructions. Incredibly simple for the Valiant here. Again, put engine on, put base block on, tick, you're done. Yep. Honestly, couldn't be simpler. And there's the CPV on the other side. I'll look at these in a minute. Now, interestingly, blank card other than the Valiant and the Covenant one, CPV Destroyer. Now let's get a close-up look at this one. So, damage track 763, it is slightly better than a Valiant, a Marathon actually, but only 1 on the first damage track. Point defense of 4 and titanium armor 4, that was quite durable in that regard, a little bit more than a Marathon. And 7-inch movement with 2-inch hard burn, that's pretty solid. It's got a heavy Mac. I know some people were hoping for Super Mac, but nope, appears to be heavy. A build rating 3. Actually, that's quite interesting. It's got a couple of extra dice. It seems to be on par for supported Marathon, actually. In fact, it's very similar to a supported Marathon. Bear with me just one moment. Right, so getting my Marathon card. As we can see here, this supported Marathon. I'll take this sleeve off because the glare is messing up the camera. So we can see here, 10 Mac dice, 8 missile dice, 10 Mac dice, 8 missile dice, 224, 224. This is worse than a supported Marathon. Yeah, I mean, look at it this way, right? Your damage track, build rating, hangars, boarding craft, security detail, Mac and missiles are the same, identical. But you get an extra inch of movement on the supported Marathon. It is 5 points cheaper on this, and point defense and titanium armor the same. That's actually, at the risk of sounding a little bit nasty, it's kind of disappointing. It is just a supported Marathon with 1 inch less movement and 5 inches point cost. So honestly, you're, as a UNSC player, if you're going for the competitive route, Marathons are still better. This ship doesn't do anything to really knock them out of their place, and there's no cool special rules to really do anything to knock the Marathon down. Now, as we go over to the supported Valiant, we get 863 on the damage track, so a little bit better. Interestingly, supporting increases hangar and boarding craft. That's a first. The Paris class frigates don't normally increase. That's a 20-point upgrade rather than a 15-point, which is normally the case for UNSC ships with a Paris class support. This is very bizarre. Yeah, the Paris class itself doesn't have any hangars or boarding craft, so it shouldn't upgrade that. It should just upgrade the attack dice, which it does. It gives an extra 2 for each, which is alright, you know, it's not bad. And an extra build rating, extra armor, and extra security detail, and a little bit more point defense. Overall, though, it's okay. Don't get me wrong, it's a nice model, but the rules are, well, there's no special battle groups either, and yeah, it's the Valiant immediately loses out to a supported Marathon, which, you know, that's take it or leave it. It's functionally identical, except less movement and more expensive, slightly. 5 points in this game isn't much. But yeah, it is otherwise identical, which is a bit of a shame. I'd have liked, again at the risk of sounding a bit nasty, I'd have liked something a bit more interesting and different. Just, well, it doesn't really do much to differentiate it other than being a slightly better Marathon in the same capacity as a supported Marathon as a slightly better Marathon. But, well, again, the hangar thing and the boarding craft thing tipped me off. I may have a misprinted copy here, and then the points cost. That's much more indicative of the Covenant. The plus 20 points, +1/+1. That's much more like what you'd expect the Covenant to get when they add a Corvette to a group. But again, I can't say for certain. Also, yeah, this. Well, anyway, make of that what you will. Ultimately, you want to get two new units effectively, new elements, the unsupported and the supported. So I'll just pop that to one side. And let's see, so the last thing we have to look at are the formation bases. So you get 1 and 2 and 3 Valiant Super-Heavy Cruisers and 3 supported. Pretty standard, stats are on there. The supported variant is approaching, you know, CCS cruiser levels of durability, but not quite there. Probably more equivalent to the RCS, except with way less damage track. But yeah, that's the Valiant Super-Heavy Cruiser. The rules, I must say, not very exciting. The model though, I quite like it. It does fit the bill of big, heavy UNSC cruiser. Oh, there goes the engines. It is rather nice, but the rules, I think, I would have liked to have seen, you know, more, if I'm honest. Even if it came at the cost of being a much more expensive model, I'd like to have seen possibly more firepower, maybe a Supermac, given the sheer size of it. Just because just to make it stand out, even if it cost more. So we have this nice, big, expensive sort of flagship model that isn't a Punic, effectively. Something that can be a nice, big, tough model, but without buying into the massive ships, because they're much like Super Heavies in 40k or Colossals in War Machine or any other equivalent. They're kind of situational. They're only good if you're playing certain size games. But again, it does kind of look like the stat card I have may be misprinted. So maybe I got this too early, actually. Maybe that's maybe we accidentally got the wrong version. Fingers crossed. I'll be chatting to Spartan and hopefully we'll find out, you know, why the Valiant is so lackluster. Until then, I'll be looking at the CPV Destroyer next. So if you want to have a look at that review, click on this here box and that'll take you to it. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. We're working on a bat rep. We're actually filming it tomorrow morning for the RCS Cruiser and the Orion Assault Carrier, so stay tuned, those should be coming soon as well.